will have to apologize. It's been a while since we've done this via Zoom, so I don't have all of the previous notes that I have, but this meeting is being held in accordance with, oh boy, see, I should have already have this totally memorized. This is being held in accordance with state rules, and holy cow. Indulge me for a moment here while I find
Hey, Bob.
the exact word. Yeah,
You could just stay in accordance with Governor Baker's orders under the COVID emergency.
okay, so in accordance
Yeah.
under Governor Baker's emergency. So just for informational purposes, so people who are here know who's on the meeting, I am the chair. Other members of the commission are Ryan Resendes, Richard Pimentel, Heidi Pelletier, pardon me, and Everett Filler. And I expect Ellen Boulay to be tuning in soon. In terms of staff, we have Pat Hannon, who is our agent, and we have Joanne DeMello, who is our senior clerk. Everyone else who is here is tuned in because they're curious as to what's going to happen, or they're part of our agenda tonight. So first order of business, minutes for approval from December 8th. We've had a chance to see those. I don't know if anybody would like to make a motion to accept those as presented.
I'll make a motion, Bob.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
Second.
That looked like a second. Everett, do we have any further discussion?
Nope.
I'm going back to the way we used to do things. I will go one person at a time and ask for approval or not. Ryan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Thank you, Rick. Everett?
Yes.
And Heidi? Okay, so that's unanimous. Next, we have meeting mail, peer review reports from Beals and Thomas for 88 Wing Lane and 211 Middle Road. Pat, would you like to elaborate on that? Just get yourself off mute first.
I'm a little rusty myself. I'd like to share my screen if I could, and I believe I can.
See if Kushner accepts. There we go. Good. Thank you, Kushner Cable, for making that possible.
So, okay, so this. Now I lost you guys. Wow. Hold on one second. I'm having computer trouble here, Bob. I'm gonna have to sign back in. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I'm back. Sorry. It's not going to work for the peer review. So I'll just tell you that the reason that's on there is because the peer review comments came back, but as you know, they were substantive. And for 211 Middle Road, we just got the peer review comments back from the proponent. So that's gone back over to Beals and Thomas. And that'll be proceeding. So we won't be able to go forward with 211 Middle Road tonight. And on Wing Lane, they were substantive as well. There's going to be a requirement for another $8,000 payment to Beals and Thomas. That check supposedly is in transit. And once that gets there, Beals and Thomas will address their comments to the peer review comments. And maybe we'll resolve that issue. So that's what I have on the peer review.
Okay.
And I can unshare my screen so people can see you. Everything, it stopped sharing. Can you still see the agenda from my screen share?
I had stopped the screen sharing only because it had it was like a picture of your desktop almost.
Oh,
Want to reshare it? You can. It's up to you.
okay, I get it.
All right. And I've got Evelyn emailing, trying to get on here and trying to find.
So the town clerk had asked that we delay for 15 minutes, Bob, because we switched to remote. In
Right.
case anyone goes to town hall and realizes that we're remote and wants to go back home and sign on.
Okay. So we're at 6 minutes past. I know that Joanne tried to call everybody yesterday
Yep,
to let them know that it was being done virtually as opposed in person.
I mean, if you wanted, we could recess until 6:15, if you wanted to make a motion to do that, or we could just entertain ourselves until 6:15. It's up to you
Well,
guys.
I don't know if we all want to stare at each other for another 8.5 minutes here. So I'll make a motion to recess until 6:15 and then we will reconvene then. So somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
And this is at the recommendation of town clerk. Did that come from you, Heidi?
Okay, it's just, I have to cut it short.
Okay,
That's fine.
right. We have a second on that?
I'll
Second.
Second,
Okay. Ryan, give me a wave. How do you vote?
yes.
Everett? Yes, you can wave, yes, that's fine. Thank you. Rex
Yes.
and Heidi? Okay,
Yes.
so we'll reconvene promptly at 6:15. So if you need to go, just meeting.
So moved.
And we have a second.
Second,
Okay, go one by one, just so we're official. Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Oh,
Back to
yes,
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Thank you, Evelyn. Ryan?
Yes.
Heidi?
yes.
Okay. So for those that just joined in, normally we would start at 6 PM. We had a request from town clerk to hold off until 6:15 because this was a change made from in-person to virtual done a couple of days ago. So out of courtesy for those that may have driven to town hall, we held up until 6:15. All right, so on to old business, and this is so to do this, I need a motion to open this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
Thank you, Heidi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Evelyn?
yes,
Everett?
Yes.
Ryan, you can give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
And Heidi?
Yes,
Okay, so this is a continued public hearing. This is a notice of intent for Eric DeBarros, map 14, lot 4C, Hathaway Road, file number SE 001-0570. A notice of intent was filed by Eric DeBarros for property located at map 14, lot 4C, Hathaway Road. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family dwelling, septic system, and a 12-foot wide gravel driveway, along with a 50-foot by 80-foot barn/garage southerly from the dwelling within the 100-foot buffer zone bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by David M. DeVignan of Schneider, DeVignan and Leone Incorporated, planning and sewage disposal system site plan for Hathaway Road dated November 18, 2021, revised plan dated December 10 of 2021. I know we were waiting for a response from Natural Heritage on this. I'm going to turn it over to our agent for an update and other further information.
Okay, thank you. So I did have to go out there on a call for another violation. I got a call from a neighbor that Mr. DeBarros had moved in a portable sawmill and was cutting trees down. She thought he got his permit. She was mad at the selectmen. I went out and talked to her and explained to her it was still in process. I did contact his engineer. He did supply me with the approval from Natural Heritage. They did receive it. So I don't know if there's any harm or foul because the site's not laid out as to where the habitat is. I didn't issue a violation notice because Dave did send me the Natural Heritage letter. I think I just need to be able to confirm with him that it was out, in an area that he could cut. But we're having a problem with the applicant, not observing the buffer zone and waiting for the approval. So I'm a little concerned that he's not going to follow the order of conditions, when the commission does vote on that. So we're going to need to talk about that. And then I got a call from the DEP circuit rider. They got a notice from Natural Heritage as well, but he called out something that we've been missing on our notices of intent. And I've missed it in a previous commission I worked on as well. On page 8 of the notice of intent, there's a number 3 where it requires that the wetland field data sheets be supplied to the commission and to DEP. And we've been missing those on basically all of our notices of intent. So they want us to get those field data reports. And I had something all queued up for that, but 13 minutes before the meeting, my computer crashed and I lost everything that I saved for the last 2.5 hours. So other than, being comfortable that he's going to observe the order of conditions and getting the field data reports, we're all set. Would you agree, Dave?
I'm
I'm gonna
like to
disagree.
ask from the engineer, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Dave, thank you.
Okay, hi, good evening. For the record, I'm Dave DeVignan, representing the applicant owner. I'm going to disagree with the statement by the DEP circuit rider. I've been doing this for 30 years, and all the time I've been doing it and all the meetings I've been at, that includes watching all the other engineering companies submit. When you submit a notice of intent, there is a checkoff box, whether that's supplied information or not. There's also other checkoff boxes, whether you are attaching a certified mailing for ESP if it's required, or Mass Division Marine Fisheries. It's just a checkoff box. It's not a mandate that DEP data forms be required in general. If you're doing an ANRAD, approving a wetland line, absolutely. Or an RDA, asking for a resource area to be delineated, absolutely. Commissions ask for it. No other commissions that I work in 12 different towns in southeastern Mass ask for DP data forms, simply because it's an expense for any applicant to have a wetland botanist, a scientist, do data forms throughout the whole thing to submit them for nobody to really look at them. I mean, that's the reason you hire an expert to determine a wetland line. So the circuit rider, may have made that statement, but that's not what the common practice has been for all the other towns in this area for the last 30 years. And I'm attesting to that on TV tonight. As far as, we did receive that letter from Natural Heritage clearing the project, and the line for the Natural Heritage, the way it's mapped, we do show it on the site plan. It is approximately 8 or 10 feet on the west side of the stone wall. And I believe the 3 trees that Mr. DeBarros cut were along that stone wall, which are probably 30 feet beyond, inside the limits of what we're proposing for work, or in other words, 35, 40 feet off the wetlands. So yes, it was a buffer zone activity, didn't impact the wetlands. he explained to me, and I sent an email to the agent, he thought he had a permit in place simply
Yeah.
because we sent them an invoice, which there was some confusion there. And I explained to him that, no, the project, we just invoice a job as we're moving along and that we're continued to this date. I believe he was with us. I saw him on
Yeah, I mean,
one of the boxes.
I'm here.
So
He's here.
he's here. He understands not to do any more work until the permit is issued. So with that, I go back to the chairman.
If I could, Bob.
Please, Pat.
So I agree with what Dave said about the field data forms, but apparently DEP has had a change of heart. They had a webinar for agents and admins yesterday, and that was something they went over with everybody in their region about getting the field data forms and some other information that we haven't been checking off boxes that I've never checked off in the past or seen checked off, but they're looking for that information. So that's, I'm just relaying, Dave. I'm not.
I understand, Pat. Hey, if
And I
could-
agree with you. I was dumbfounded, and I said to Joanne, I've never done that in 7 years. I've never had to do it. And out of the blue, I get a call that we're missing this on this project and missing that on that project. And I just figured maybe they're getting back to the office and actually starting to look at this stuff rather than just, sending out a file number.
I like to, I will say this, and I know you just relayed information. I don't take it personally, Pat. I don't think the circuit rider does not review notice of intents and site plans.
He told us that,
And
and he told us
Okay,
who did,
so-
and he told us why, and he's relaying this, and he's trying to get everybody in his region to do this stuff. So I'm just going along with what the circuit.
And the bottom line is when the file number is issued, it's issued electronically
Mhm.
to the applicants, the engineers, anybody that's on it, including the Conservation Commission, typically the agent as well. And I've yet to see that comment issued on any DEP file number in the 25, 30 years I've been doing this. So until they start telling us to do it, because it's not attached to I'm not going to, have my client spend money. I don't think it's fair to make Mr. DeBarros do something that one circuit rider wants to, when it wasn't even in the DEP comments when they issued the file number. So
I don't know how you could do a wetlands delineation without filling out field notes and doing all the test bits and the Munsell chart. And that was that's what he brought up, Dave, was.
sure, well, typically they write notes, but they don't write the extensive amount of notes that they would need to fill out the forms. They all do augering to determine soils. They look at the vegetation. They make notes, but field notes, but it's one thing to do that versus spending an extra 3 hours on the job site to write everything down, to put it into the data sheets are pretty extensive. I mean, they're hieroglyphic to me. I'm not a botanist.
I would want to kill myself if I had to do it. I looked into it. I don't want to belabor the point. It's up to the commission whether they want to do what DEP says. And we'll go from there, but they did say they want the data forms. So whatever you have filled out from your botanist would be a data forms unless they want.
Well, Pat and Dave, I'll ask you this question then. So we've had a report issued by Heritage and Endangered Species Program saying there won't be any adverse effects from this project. There's been a file number issued. So would not having this field data, there's no way to backtrack and undo this report. So
Natural Heritage doesn't
I'm not
need,
sure how much bearing that has on what's happening now, but I have a question from Mr. DeBarros, and Alex, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
So I know there have been a couple of visits and a couple of complaints about work that's being done. Let's make it clear that for you to proceed with anything involving wetlands and buffer zone, you need an explicit go-ahead from the commission. And sometimes that comes through your engineer and sometimes it comes through the agent. But we as volunteers here, we've all volunteered to protect the resource. So when a project comes up and we ask property owners to respect the state rules, we need that done. I'm hoping that it's been made clear that any work you do, you need to have the go-ahead from the commission. And again, sometimes through your engineer and sometimes through the agent. And is this clear?
Yeah, well, the whole thing is I'm not only trying to make you happy, but I'm trying to make the neighbors happy. I was coming in and out of the lot, delivering, just storing my wood that I have for my company. I have firewood and stuff I was just putting on the company, but I kept bringing out mud into the road. So in respect for the people around me, I said, hey, no big deal. I'll throw some wood chips down. I know it's outside of the wetland line. Wasn't aware that it was going to be a buffer zone violation. I just made sure I was out of the wetland. I made sure that I went out and spent the money and I put down the silt fence. And if I had to, I would have put down the socks also. It wasn't a disobeying. It was just, when you're in a situation like that, it's not just like we were getting at, just making you happy. I don't want to stop problems with my neighbors, especially when I have problems going on with the back neighbors that aren't even property owners. These people in the back that are complaining and calling town hall are about to get evicted. They are selling the property and they're all up in the roar about it. So now they're trying to make it all in effect for everybody around them that has really nothing to do with them at all. Do you understand where I'm coming? Like, I have the people that are complaining, I have their landlord's number. There's a trustee, it's called Tippy. And then on top of that, there's other people. Like, I went over, and like I said, I went over it. We went over it. Dave made sure he was clear. Oh, we're gonna have a permit for not dropping trees this way. I got my sawmill. It cost me $50,000 for the sawmill. I literally dropped 3 trees and we're just milling out a couple boards. On the other side of the wall, which Dave was saying was over 30 feet, plus some. And then on top of that, when they first came out, when Mr. Pat Hannon first came out and pumping his chest out at me, I was way outside that buffer zone. I was in the legitimate, when I bought the property, I had the layout of the wetland property, and I was way outside the 100 feet line. I just don't understand why it's becoming a problem after a problem after a problem. That's just, I don't get it, because I'm doing everything I can, but it's my property also. Like, if I'm outside the buffer zone, I'm doing what I can on my upland. I'm not over the 5,000 square feet that I was told is needed for a permit. I called the town hall. I talked to multiple different districts about getting, for the driveway example, I call them, oh, Mr. DeBarros, you don't need no permits. You go ahead. I said, it's only a temporary driveway, but I don't want no problems. It should be on town record. I called them. Yeah, go ahead, Eric. You can put down. I just said, I'm just trying to keep it out of the road for the neighbors, because I know how it is. I know I don't want to be driving down the road and have mud all over my vehicle if I don't need it on my personal vehicles. It's like, and now I just keep getting backlash after backlash after backlash after backlash. It's just, I've owned it for a year. I paid $100,000 out of my pocket, cash money, to buy this piece of property that everybody told me it was buildable. Okay, yeah. If there's no access to a property, it is not buildable. I'm not a rookie to this whole scene. I've been doing construction work all my life. Not only am I a fisherman, but I own a tree company, so I do know about trees. I know what trees are wetland vegetation. I know what's not wetland vegetation. I'm not going to walk onto somebody's property and start pulling down trees without going on the computer, going onto the state files, looking up and seeing what the wetlands is. I am by far out of the wetland buffer zone. So for the person to come in the back and just keep complaining and them to keep coming out and I'm not even in the wetland buffer zone to start with, and then to give me a problem, I think that's where I get frustrated. If you get
Okay,
where
I
I'm coming
understand.
from.
Thank you for that clarification. I'm guessing, out of courtesy, and this is something we do every meeting, I'm guessing there are other people tuned in that are curious about this project, neighbors, and out of courtesy, because it's a public hearing, I take comments. If you are going to speak up, for the record, you will need to identify yourself and where you're from. And then I'll take your comment. So I'm going to go in the order that I see names, just for efficiency purposes. I see Deborah Paul Cholopic. Are you tuned in for this one? And would you like to comment? And if it's a no, you can just stay muted. I'm guessing that's a no. There's someone named Karen. Are you in for this issue?
No, I'm not here for this issue.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Linda's iPhone. Linda, are you on for this one? That's a no. There's another one that says just Mr. Are you on for this? And I wonder if that's no. Cheryl's iPad, are you on for this one?
No.
Thank you. There's another one, CMH. Hearing nothing, I'll go to what else is on my screen here. Mr. Leger, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Karen, I know you're not on for this. Anonymous, are you tuning in for this one?
No.
Christian?
No, I'm not, Bob, but I think
Is
Mr.
this
DeBarrow should have done. Hello?
Yeah, Christian, is this, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, Christian D'Souza.
Oh, D'Souza, of course.
Yeah.
Christian. Please.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with this situation, but I think there should have been some more homework done prior to the purchase of this property, because it sounds like a real problem.
No. I won't go into that. Sounds like a conversation you and Eric could have together. Well, let's just say we've been following it, our agent's been following it, his engineer's been doing his best to make sure everything fits. So that's where we stand with that. Thank you, Mr. D'Souza. Nice to hear your voice. Linda Lee Scappick, are you on for this one? Mr. Vigneault, I know you are not, and Mary Cordero, you're the last one on my screen.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't know if there's any other, let's see, let's go back to this. So this is notice of intent. We had continued it. Pat, is there anything about the continuance that we haven't discussed?
We were waiting for the natural heritage and we got it.
Okay.
So all you have left to decide is whether or not you want to make DEP happy on the field data reports or come up with an order of conditions.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
wonder about the difficulty of doing this after DEP's already given a file number.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dave.
I'd like you to read, I know it's in your file, but the DEP issues the boilerplate file number. And it says this project has been assigned the following file number, SE 001-0570. Issuance of a file number indicates only completeness of the submittal, not approval of the application. So the reviewer of this and the person who issued this file number considered it a complete application. So I think that Mr. Andrew Poyon I think he's out of line even making the comment. If he wants to change policy, he needs to talk internally with his is people that he works with that don't agree with him because they're issuing file numbers similar to this. Because it, like I told you, it's historically not been warranted unless the commission sees an issue with some part of the line or you're asking for a wetland approval. So with that said, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking at a couple of notes about this. So if you're, yeah, I'm not a fan of this after the fact stuff. So I'll.
It's not the end of the world, Bob. It's not the end of the world. I mean, they just told us yesterday, so.
Well, I'll entertain a motion for positive order of conditions with the stipulation that Mr. DeBarros has to allow our agent on site when he asks to be on site, and that no work starts until we're notified that work is starting. And that's not out of the ordinary to ask for that.
Well, we want a erosion control inspection prior to work start. And a kickoff meeting 5 days before the job starts, within 5 days.
That's all fair. Ryan, you had your hand up?
Yeah, looking back at my notes, we left off with waiting on natural heritage, and there was a question of the wetland delineation, and it was going to be solved by putting stones along the road or something like that.
No, there was going to be an additional 15 feet of buffer zone. As a no touch from the wetland line.
But we did propose the placement of boulders. They are in the plan, Ryan. There is going to be a row of boulders. You're correct in your notes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, just looking back, I mean.
And hey, can I speak in real quick? I'll rebuttal that. I'll put a whole stone wall right down the whole side. I don't mind, because I'm gonna come up on the side of my septic system and put a stone wall. I'll start it right from the driveway. Right from the beginning. I got
Mr.
plenty
Chair.
of stone.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hannon?
unfortunately, we have a stormwater regulation that if you build a stone wall longer than 6 feet, you need a stormwater permit. So I would avoid doing that. Right, Dave?
We'll stick with the boulders.
Yes, please.
Why? Whatever.
There's regulations.
Eric, we can always go back at a later time and address it at a later date.
No, I'm just saying, if it's that big of a deal, I'm not gonna just put, I will if I have to, but I'm just saying, wouldn't a wall be better than stone boulders?
I'm just looking back at my notes, and that's where we left off with this, as opposed to whatever else is going on right now.
All I was trying to do is squash the situation. It is what it is.
I understand this tension in this meeting, but with that said, I'll make a motion to issue a positive order on this.
Okay, so.
I
and
second it. This is Evelyn Boulay.
thank you. With the conditions being that there's an inspection of erosion control. Pat, you said 5 days of.
And a meeting on site with 5 days before construction.
Okay.
Within.
And then,
This is
and
gonna
then
be
full
a
access to the
Eric,
project when he needs. And also that Mr. DeVignen will include on the plans those stones that we discussed. So that way we keep that driveway away from the field meadow.
Mr. Chairman, the stones are shown on the plan, very, very clear and bold. And they
Okay.
wrap around
I
that
haven't
meadow.
seen-
The plan
I've not
is
seen them since
revised
the last
December
meeting.
10th.
Okay. I've not seen it since then. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the commission?
No.
Everett, how do you vote? Everett, over to you first. How do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Heidi,
Yeah.
Rick,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes, but this was god awful.
Thank you. Unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
all
Mr.
for that.
Chairman. Thank you, members.
Okay. Mr. DeBarros, we won't be insulted if you if you tune out now.
So I'm all set? Because
You're
I
all
was up
set.
for a violation. What's going on with that?
There is no formal.
I had it on my email that it was gonna be I had to stay for a violation because I cut those 3 trees.
I think we've sorted this through with this.
Yeah, we're
notice of
all
intent.
good.
We're good.
All right,
Good
thank
luck,
you,
Mr.
everybody.
DeBarros. Good luck.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank
Okay.
you very much, everybody. Have a good
Have a
night.
good evening.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Next on the agenda. Motion to close that hearing.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Commission members, either give me a wave or reactions, thumbs up. How do you vote? Okay, thank you. Next, heating enforcement order dated July 16th of 2020. The recommendation is to discharge violation status and dissolution of order by vote of commission. Pat, any comment on this before we?
This was resolved, and I actually believe it may have also been resolved in court, so it's kind of a moot point, but it was requested by council that we dissolve this, and because we didn't meet last month, it didn't get done last month, so we're doing it.
Okay.
We're doing these 2 tonight.
So entertain a motion to dissolve the PJ Keating enforcement order dated July 16th of 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, how do you vote? Everett,
Aye.
Heidi,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Evelyn? Evelyn, how do you vote on this one? I'll take that as an abstain. We have enough to pass. Next, PJ Keating enforcement order, August 13th of 2020. This one was wetlands violation impacts to bordering vegetated wetland from silt pile slope failure. Enforcement order resulted in the filing and approval of NOI number SE001-0558. This enforcement order can also be dissolved by vote of commission. Agent Hannon? any
Yes,
comment?
and that's the desire of town council.
Okay. Having heard that, entertaining a motion to dissolve this enforcement order as well.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. Again, Everett, how do you vote?
Yes.
Heidi,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you all. Next, we have onto new business. We have a COC, a certificate of compliance for Janet Perrin, 30 Club Avenue, file, thank you, Heidi. File number SE001-0445. A certificate of compliance was filed by Janet Perrin for property located at 30 Club Avenue, map 15, lot 148. The applicant proposed to construct an attached 24-foot by 24-foot garage to an existing single-family dwelling with related grading within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Mr. Hannon, comments?
So this is an older NOI, as you can tell by the number. I went out to this site. The garage was built, everything's fine, looks great. Nothing's been thrown into the wetlands, there's no swimming pools added. Everything's as it should be, and I'd recommend that you approve it.
Okay, thank you. So just to get discussion going, I'll entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 30 Club Avenue.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
Thank you, Rick. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this?
No.
Okay. Everett, how do you vote?
Yes.
Um, Rick,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
and Evan.
Yes.
Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay. There might be a couple of you that are not on mute. It would be great if you were. I'm hearing background noise. Violations. So we're on to PJ Keating Company, 72 South Main Street. New enforcement order, silt beyond the silt fence, failure to inspect, failure to comply with NOI, file number SC 001-0558. Discussion and ratification, review of matters presented, votes may be. Mr. Hannon, over to you.
Okay, I just shared my screen.
Okay,
Can you see it?
yes.
Quantico report?
Yep.
Yep. So there was an inspection out at the site on December 16th with Quantico and Keating officials. And some of the observations were that where the silt pile is, that there had been another excursion out into the beyond the silt fence. And none of the silt has been moved back out of the buffer zone. And none of the silt pile has been stabilized as was approved, actually, ironically, a year ago today, January 12th of 2020. So I asked about the excursion above, beyond the silt fence. And I asked when they were going to do what was approved in the notice of intent to pull the material out of the buffer zone. And Mr. Robinson told me that they had 3 years to do that. And that the notice of intent had given them 3 years to do that. So I did go back to the office and look at the notice of intent. And the commission didn't put a date certain that needed to be done. So I think they took it to mean that the notice of intent expires in 3 years, so they had 3 years to do it. But the notice of intent also said that they had to inspect it daily and that they had to prevent material from going over the silt fence. And this isn't the first time that it's happened since the notice of intent was issued. Mike Toohill from Conoco was out there previously. I'm not sure when, but maybe October and November. The engineer from Conoco did take some pictures of the silt fence. And we gave Keating 3 days notice before we went out there to do this inspection. They had time, if they really cared about what was going on back there, to fix this before we got there. This is how we found it. There's stormwater running down off of the silt piles and from the road behind it. And the water's flowing from the bottom of the picture to the top. And this is how stormwater is scouring the surface there, going out to the wetlands. And that shouldn't be happening. In fact, their stormwater pollution plan says that all of the water from the site goes into the quarry. And that's not accurate, because from this area, the stormwater does not reach the quarry. It can't do it. It goes out to the wetlands and to the priority habitat area. So this is how the stabilization of another one of their silt piles went. And this was stabilized over a year and a half ago and failed within a month of it being done. And Keating has done nothing, absolutely nothing to fix that erosion on those slopes. This material you here see at the bottom, all this gray material, is all the silt that washed out of the pile. And that gets in with their stormwater. So I was going to issue an enforcement order. But after talking to DEP about this, I was given some advice that rather than relying on the notice of intent that's in place, that this is a violation of the conditions of the notice of intent. And that we should issue an enforcement order with an order to restore, not to file another notice of intent, but with an order to restore it, and to restore it by a date certain, and to submit a plan and get it done. And I didn't want to go and issue another violation notice or enforcement order without having the buy-in from DEP and the commission, and have to go through 5 appeal meetings. So my recommendation is that I issue an enforcement order with an order to restore and to move the material out of the buffer zone within 60 days. And that's what I'm asking the commission to authorize. I would issue the enforcement order tomorrow, and we could ratify it at our next meeting at the end of the month. And that's my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. I don't know if any, thank you, Chair. So I'm curious, I'd like to hear from other members of the commission first on this. Any thoughts from anybody?
I just went back to my notes from January, was it January 12th, 2020? And it got continued, and I'm still feathering through here. We approved the plan for this work, correct?
Yes, we did, yeah.
What was the work? The work was never complete, like stuff. You know what I mean? Like there was like area A and area B. Like, I don't have the plans in front of me, but just I remember like off, you know, going off of memory, there was like certain areas that they were going to watch and certain areas they weren't going to touch because stuff was growing through it. And this is the notice of intent that we're talking about, right? Was any of that work done? Or did they just put up silt fence and this is just, you know, that's my question, you know?
Well, this to me looks like just, you know, the stuff that was supposed to be contained is not.
Right, but I'm asking has any actual excavation? They said there was some excavation that was going to be done by hand and in certain areas and they were testing to see if the wetlands were, you know what I mean? Where are we at with this?
I can help you with that, Ryan. I can help you with that. So they did do the work to install the silt fence and the sock, and they had to do handwork and dig stuff out and clear brush. And then it was agreed that where the silt went into the wetlands and affected, I don't know how many thousand square feet, that it appeared that the wetland was coming back through the silt. And there was an agreement that there was no sense in digging up the silt if the wetlands was going to survive. So we gave them, they submitted a plan to do that over 2 years and see how it was doing. And if it was in fact thriving, leave it alone. It didn't need to be fixed if it wasn't broken. But they were supposed to move the material back away from the buffer zone to prevent these excursions beyond the silt fence. And they were supposed to inspect it every day, and they didn't. And they haven't done any of that. And I'll go further to tell you that at the end of the inspection, when we were done, I offered to Mr. Robinson that rather than put together a big report, that we could all get together. Last time we met at the police station meeting room, we could discuss what needed to be done to be in compliance, and the town could work it out. And he said, no, we want to go to court. So you've approved the notice of intent. They're not living up to the notice of intent. They violated the conditions of it. I want to issue an enforcement order for the buffer zone violation, not about the wetlands restoration, about the fact that they haven't been doing the inspections, and they've had 2 excursions beyond the silt fence.
So,
They told me that they took prices to have the work done, that they have the prices, but they're just not ready to do it. So if they're not going to move the material back from the buffer zone, this is going to keep happening. You have a 40 to 50 foot tall pile of silt out there, hasn't been stabilized. In the plan they presented to the commission, it actually says that the western side of the pile had been stabilized and vegetated with slick attack, and that no other material would be added to that slope. And that was in the notice of intent, that no other material would be added to that pile. When they did the RAM for where the asphalt plant used to be and removed contaminated soil, the soils that were allowed to stay on site were put in against the silt pile. And the slope that they told you and put on their plan that had been graded to a 2-to-1 slope and stabilized has never been done. That was not accurate. I wasn't the agent at the time. That was overlooked. So this is a continuing pattern of non-compliance by PJ Keating. And they keep telling you they're victims, and they're victims of themselves in my book. If you say you're going to inspect it every day, inspect it every day. If there's silt beyond the silt fence, notify us like the NOI requires and remove it. Now, the day we found the silt fence excursion, they did have some guys come right out and clean it up, but only after we found it. So it's up to you guys what you do, but there should be an enforcement order issued, and there should be an order to remove the material and get it out of there and end this. And that's where I'm at.
I'm going to call on Mr. Robinson. You look like you're unmuted. Rob, did you want to speak?
Yeah, just one of the comments about Mr. Hannon. When he said that I was welcome to go to court, as in I did say that, but it was in relation to the stipulations that we have, and he was referring to those. He wasn't referring to sitting down and sorting out certain small issues. He was talking about the whole issue of Keating and the town.
That's accurate.
And my answer to that was, just for the record, that we have gone through the mill so many times with Mr. Hannon and various other members that until we get certain things put on the table, we just get beaten down all the time. And records of laws or regulations have been changed as we've moved forward. Also, for the record, we do inspect this area, and we have been inspecting it daily. And at the time of Mr. Hannon's visit, there had been a very heavy rain event prior. And rather than go in and do anything and then be accused of trying to cover it up, that small area, we were very well aware that that was there. And whilst Mr. Hannon was on site, I asked him, shall we get it done now? And he said, yes. So we did. We got it done. We got it cleared up.
Mr. Hannon,
yes, sir.
If I hear you correctly, the incident that Mr. Robinson referred to is not, I mean, it seems like that moment that was dealt with, but it seems like there are previous violations or previous excursions beyond silt fence into that wetland. Is that accurate?
Yes, Mike Toohill went out and met Mr. Chair and their wetlands consultants just to go over and see how things were going. And there was a mention that there had been a small incursion beyond the silt fence. I didn't get to see it. Mike didn't tell me he was going out there. He would in the future. But because you have a 1-to-1 slope in the buffer zone, and they've had a year to stabilize this, and they went through a lot of effort, and the commission went through a lot of effort to get this approved. When you did, I think you remember, this was a hurry up because they wanted to get the contractor in place, and they wanted to have the weather be right, and they wanted to get this done for you. And here it is, a year later, and we're in the same place.
Chairman Rocha, if may I please? This is Doug Vigneault. First of all, the order of condition wasn't issued until July 7th of 2021. It hasn't been a year. We didn't even have the order of conditions till July.
Doug,
So
I want to put you on hold for a minute. There are other people that are not.
Evelyn's watching TV.
I'm trying to turn it down.
Turn it off and go mute.
You need to mute. There you
Thank
go.
you. Doug, you may please go back.
Thank you.
back
Thank
to
you,
the
Mr.
beginning so
Chairman.
we-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In fact, this hasn't been a year. We filed a year ago. It took 6 months to get the order of conditions, and if I recall correctly, even at that point, on the day that you actually approved, Mr. Hannon wanted it delayed even further. The order of conditions is dated July 7th, 2021. So that's the first total error in the statements that he's making. That's 7 months difference from what he's saying. So it hasn't been a year that we've had the opportunity to go out there and clean it up. As Rob indicated, we do inspect it. That small breach that you see there in the picture, of course, we knew that was going to come up tonight. That's about 3 feet of a silt fence. It's 450 feet long. There is silt in the wetland. We never denied that there was silt in the wetland. We don't want any more silt going in there. But that's been on the table since day one. And you have the plans that show the certain extents of silt and the different categories that Ryan referred to as indicated on the plan. They're clearly beyond where the silt fence was placed. The other thing that is completely ridiculous is nothing in the order of conditions says daily inspections. We do daily inspections. We run over the entire property. We do that, but that's certainly not in the order of conditions. I think he has to review the order of conditions again. That's all I have to add. And just let's get the facts straight a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just add a couple of points to that as well, please.
Okay, identify yourself for the meeting.
Certainly, thank you. Luke Legere, McGregor, Legere, and Stevens on behalf of PJ Keating. Just in addition to what Mr. Vino just said, it's absolutely right that this.
Excuse me 1 minute, Mr. Chairman. Did Mr. Legere notify town council that he was going to be on this meeting tonight?
This is a public meeting, Mr. Chairman. Why would I need to do that?
Well, we're represented by council and you're in here as an attorney. It would be nice if council had noticed you were going to be here tonight.
I'm under no obligation.
Okay, just asking a question. No problem.
Okay, may I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Okay, thank you. The date, as Mr. Vino stated, it was July. This was actually issued in July, not January, which I think is a very important thing to keep in mind here. As Mr. Hannon himself recognized, there's a 3-year window for Keating to perform this work. We're about 6 or 7 months into that. The work hasn't begun yet. I think that goes to Mr. Resenda's question earlier. The work approved by the commission under this order of conditions has not begun. And it was proposed and approved incrementally, so that it's absolutely correct that the first thing that was going to happen would be that the pile would be pulled back out of the buffer, it would be stabilized, and then we'd get down to the wetlands to determine whether and to what extent restoration work was required down there. None of that started. If the commission will recall, during the course of the hearing, which was lengthy, it went on for many months, PJ Keating offered to put in a silt fence, essentially to try to prevent further erosion into the wetlands while the permitting was going on. The commission agreed orally during one of our hearings. That's the silt fence that's there. Right, so the silt fence that was installed at Keating's offer. The commission took us up on that, but it hasn't. That's why it's there. That's it. So it's really unclear to me what condition we're alleged to be violating here. I think that's just sort of what's really flummoxing me as much as anything. Where we haven't even started the work, it's hard to understand how we're being said to not be compliant with some of the conditions. So thank you.
Mr. Karen, I was wondering if you would like to comment on any of this.
Bob, could I respond to Mr. Legier's comment?
Yeah.
When you get a minute.
Let me hear from Chuck.
Yeah, I'm also, I think I've got it unmuted now.
Yeah, you're unmuted.
The only comment I have is, when we were out there with Mike Truhill, I think it was in October. I don't recall there being any breach of the silt fence. There was still, we were seeing silt that had been in there previously in the, the buffer zone and into the BVW. It was still moving around a little, but I don't recall us noting any places that the silt fence was being overtopped. I could be mistaken, but I don't remember that. I think Mike and I just noted that movement that was going on still. And just to answer Ryan's question, yeah, we had a very detailed monitoring program proposed for 3 or 4 different sections of the wetland. None of that, Mike and I looked at that in October preliminarily, but the plan and design was written up. We didn't want to get into that in great detail until the pile had been pulled back and that area stabilized, so we weren't, kind of bailing against the tide if something goes wrong. I think that's all I have to add, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Hannan.
Well, I heard Attorney Legier's comment, and we're at a disadvantage tonight because we're remote. We don't have the notice of intent right here. And this is part of the reason that I didn't want to just go and issue an enforcement order, and I wanted to have a discussion and vet this with the commission. The notice of intent that I read in the office says January 12th. Maybe there's a revised notice of intent. I know there was a redo of the meeting at another time. I'll research that tomorrow. I'll have the information for the next meeting, and we can continue this discussion to the next meeting. Because I saw documents in the office that say that this was approved at an earlier date. But beside that, there is continued erosion happening. It's not being managed. And even if it was approved in July, there was still time to move the soil and vegetate it and stop the problem. To think that you're going to leave it there and inspect it every day for 3 years is kind of absurd. That's not what we want to do. And DEP doesn't recommend using notices of intent to resolve violations for this very reason, that it can slow things down. And that's why they prefer the enforcement order with an order to restore, because that's definitive. So let's take the input we got tonight. Let's get our facts straight. We can revisit this at the next meeting if you so desire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody else that's tuned in tonight to this Zoom meeting that had wanted to comment or question anything happening regarding this topic. And if so, there's a. should be a
Mr. Chairman, can I add one thing to what Mr. Hannan just said? An enforcement order was in fact issued, and that enforcement order said file a notice of intent, which is exactly what we did.
Right, but DEP does not recommend that. They recommend, as I just said, not resolving it with a notice of intent, but that's what the agent did. And that's fine. There was a notice of intent. And I, as the new agent, say it's not being followed and that there's a violation. I'll get my facts together, I'll present it to the commission, and we can get it straight.
Okay, yeah, I have the copy of the order of conditions. I'm surprised that one wouldn't have the copy of the order of conditions when it's on the agenda to talk about PJ Key again. So that's amazing. Thanks.
Anybody else for this topic? Okay. So we'll continue this. I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next meeting on this topic.
Bob, real quick,
Ron?
can we have a site visit, go so we can all see it with our own eyes?
Yeah.
It's been a year. Let's go there. We'll convene, we'll huddle up, we'll see what's going on, and then we'll deal with all this stuff.
Great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Mr. Robinson, is that something we coordinate through you or through Mr. Vigneault?
You can coordinate it through myself. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take care of that, Bob.
Okay, so we have a meeting in 2 weeks, which is the 26th. So it would be Saturday, the 23rd, I believe. No, the 22nd. So we
22nd,
can
yeah.
arrange that morning. And I have to find my safety goggles. Mr. Robinson, is that going to require boots and goggles again?
And vehicles as well. Personal vehicles will be going down into that area. Yeah. So good sturdy shoes and boots, as in, yeah, good sturdy boots.
Steel-toed?
I'm sorry?
Steel-toed boots again for this visit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll add that to our site visit agenda for the 22nd.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan, for recommending that. So with that being said, I'll entertain Linda Lee Skapik has a question. Please ask. And just tell us where if you're a neighbor. Good, Miss Skapik, if I apologize.
It says she's connecting to audio. She's trying to.
Okay. Floor is yours when you're ready.
There you go. No?
It's the drawback of electronic meetings.
I think you're on, Linda.
There's two different Lindas here, one with an I and one with a Y.
Okay, now?
Yep.
Please.
Okay, just one quick question. I've got an echo here.
Do you have another computer on in your house, Linda, that's got the microphone on?
Yep, let me mute it.
Yeah. You must not do talk radio.
Okay, quick question.
Sure.
Mr. Robinson, is anyone at PJ Keating or is it closed for the winter?
We have a couple of people on site during the winter. There are people in the office, and every now and again, myself or another manager will come onto site and inspect. But at this moment in time, we don't have anybody at all on the asphalt plant, and obviously the quarry's closed. And we have some other work that will be going on some of the noise panels on the plant later on, probably in the next few weeks, on the stone plant. That's it. That's all we're doing.
So if someone needed to get in there to contact someone, you're not there or there's no heads, Mr. Vigneault, are you in there? Anyone?
Why would anybody need to go in there to contact anybody? We have people on the front. The office is manned, as in there are people in the office.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Which
All
are
right.
doing other duties. Yes.
Okay. Just a quick question, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I will entertain a motion to continue this discussion to our January 26th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Ryan. We have a second?
Second,
We get further discussion on this.
no.
Okay. Ryan, how do you vote? Rick?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. Okay. The next item on here is, so Mr. Barros with us perhaps. Eric Barros, map 14, lot 4, C Hathaway Road. File number any NOI, try this again, Hathaway Road, NOI, file number SE 001-0570, pending approval. And this was a violation of Wetlands Protection Act, buffer zone violations and repeated noncompliance issues. Discussion and review of matters, votes may be taken. Mr. Hannon, anything else to say about this other than what we've discussed with the vote on the NOI previously?
On Mr. DeBarros?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, I think we decided not to issue a violation because Natural Heritage had sent out the letter, and I think you got them on the right track, maybe.
Okay.
But is this under discussion?
It's a discussion item, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's under the violations heading.
Oh, I see it now, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No, we're good with that.
Okay. Okay, so on to the discussion agenda. 211 Middle Road, peer review, project engineer's response to Beals and Thomas. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. I'll begin this discussion by saying we received a lengthy response from Beals and Thomas in response to the plans for this, especially with the stormwater. So I'm going to let Mr. Hannon take it from here.
Okay. So for Middle Road, there were 52 comments in the peer review for their stormwater plan. And some of it was information from old projects, I think, that was being used by the engineer. You know, he has a boilerplate document, and there was reference to a house being torn down to build a gas station. That wasn't part of the project. There were pipe elevations in there that the water was going to flow backwards. There were questions on the culvert, and then just, you know, typographical and housekeeping things. So that went to the owner of the project and to his engineer, and they had not responded until today. And they did send an electronic file over to Beals and Thomas. They sent paper files and electronic to me. And Beals and Thomas will go through that in the next 2 weeks, and that should be back and resolved for our next meeting. There was nothing earth shaking there, just kind of some sloppy work. So that should be all set. And then on the discussion, in talking to DEP and looking what other towns are doing and what the commission's been doing in town, we're pretty liberal on the buffer zone, and the commission doesn't have a policy. And I'm not saying you need to have a wetlands bylaw that makes a no-touch zone and, you know, no how, no way can you go there. But I would recommend that the commission adopt a policy on having a 25-foot no-touch zone for buffer zones. And that's subject to you folks being able to, you know, give a waiver or you know, make a shorter distance for a hardship or something that you think makes sense. But I'm seeing a lot of projects that are 5 feet from the wetland and, you know, right up against the wetland, and Labonte Street comes to mind as, you know, one of those that we all want to look at. So I'd like you guys to consider that if you want to talk about it tonight, or if you want to talk about it at the next meeting. I'm fine. I had a document from DEP on the buffer zone, but I lost everything I had on my computer queued up 13 minutes before the meeting. And it took me 2 hours to put it all together. So, but it's not a mandatory thing. It's a policy that we would distribute to the engineers, and they could design their projects keeping in mind that you had a 25-foot no-touch policy.
So,
And that they would,
sorry.
and they need to convince you to go closer.
In the past, we typically request this and ask for it with just about all of these projects anyway. So it sounds like you're saying we take that recommendation and put it in writing, and that's something we hand to engineers?
I have it in writing, and we would put it on our website, and we would send it out to the engineers. And they would know going forward to tell their clients that there's a 25-foot no-touch policy. and that it's subject to review by the commission. But it would be a step in the right direction.
Works for me. Other members of the commission have comments or thoughts on this? Brian?
I like it. I think we've discussed it in the past. Obviously, at our discretion, you know, I mean, somebody's put a doghouse within 5 feet of the buffer zone, then that's fine. But if they're storing their, you know, their lawn tractor with fuel and all that other stuff, obviously that's not desired. But I agree. I've been a proponent of that for a while. We started a bylaw committee, and it just kind of fell through the cracks and kind of dissolved. But I'm all for a 25-foot no touch zone. Definitely. Policy.
Yes.
Well, recommendation, because what teeth does it have? You know, I mean, it's kind of.
You can, well, if it does have teeth, so you set a policy of a 25-foot no touch, and you feel strongly that you don't want to go, you know, back on that 25-foot, you could deny it and make them go for a superseding order because you have a policy that you have a 25-foot no touch. If if you feel that strongly about it, and we have a few that I think you would have felt that strongly about. So it's an ounce of prevention.
Right.
Yep.
Rick, Everett, you're both unmuted.
I'm in favor of having some kind of written policy on setback.
I have it all done. I'll have Joanne send it out tomorrow.
I think it makes a lot of sense to have it. It's in black and white. There it is. It's not a, oh, you didn't tell me. It's in black and white. I think it's something that we need to do because a lot of these projects are getting very, very close. And I would be in favor of adopting that kind of policy.
Yeah. So would I. We talked about that last year, and as Ryan said, it just didn't go any further. But yeah, I agree. As long as there's a variance that we can apply when needed, I think it's a good idea.
So in that case, Pat, yeah, provide us with the language, and we'll take a formal.
The next meeting, yeah. Yep. And then the next one, Bob.
Yeah, wetlands delineation.
So after hearing the discussion for Hathaway Road and what DEP told me, I'm gonna tell you that I go out and do a lot of inspections for septic systems where there's wetlands and flagging's been done, and the septic systems are just outside of the buffer zone. And it's even been pointed out to me by the health agent that sometimes you need to question some of these flag lines. And when I was talking to the circuit rider about the wetlands forms, he said that some commissions have adopted policies on wetlands delineation that they want the field data forms. Because if someone doesn't have the field data form, they really haven't done the full wetlands delineation. And it may be a lot of work to do it, but that's what wetlands delineators do. And it is a lot of work. And unless you're going to send someone out to peer review in the field and hand auger and dig test pits and get the depth of groundwater in the site and do all those things that Beals and Thomas is about to have to do at Wing Lane, we should have a policy and require those. I'm of the feeling that there are a couple of consultants in town that are just out hanging flags.
Well, I think from here on in, I'm fine with that. If the circuit rider is recommending that from here on in.
So,
Ryan.
No, I'm just curious if other town. Is there other towns doing this? I mean,
yes. So I don't have a written policy on wetlands delineation because I thought it up, and I'm not being funny. I took one from 3 other towns and made it into one that fits Acushnet and changed the name of the town to Acushnet. And I'll circulate that, and we can bring that up at the next meeting and discuss it and vet it. And you can decide whether you want to do it, but there are people out there hanging flags without doing the work that needs to be done.
I hear more about people taking down flags than hanging them, you know what I mean?
Well, and if you had the field notes, you would have the field location of the flags and the flag numbers.
I mean, that's the way I see it, but all right, I'll entertain it and look at it, but
I don't buy that there's extra expense to having to produce the field notes, because the field notes are required. It's a required part of doing a wetlands delineation.
I write down in my field notes every meeting, and it's pretty much a legal document. So when a survey is out in the field, they have this same exact book. So basically what you're looking for is a photocopy of what they've been writing.
No, there's specific data sheets that DEP has printed out that need to be filled out, requesting specific information. I'm not a wetlands delineator. I spent some time looking at what it takes. It's a very heavy lift, and I don't see Rick Sharon on the meeting anymore, but he could attest. It's a lot of work.
Right, and then for a commission to say that flag's in the wrong spot, I would need to be educated.
We just want to know they did it. We want to know it was done properly. We want to know they didn't just go out and hang a flag up and say, I'm a wetlands delineator, and that's the line.
Right. So what does that require? Does that require the DEP going out and checking every job site?
Nope. It requires us to get the field notes, and me as an agent to be able to go out there and find where the test pit was and see there was a test pit, find where they augured. You'll see later on that we're going to spend some money, and we're going to buy an auger, and we're going to buy a Munsell chart, and we're going to be able to go out and verify some of this stuff in the field as a commission. And
I see this as a good form of CYA. You know, paper trails for these kinds of things are always good, because if there ends up being some form of a discrepancy or discussion about where a line is or where a flag went, those field notes can be useful to us, especially if we get someone to, if we need to bring someone in to do peer review of that set of notes. That's a handy thing to have. It gives us more information to work with. And if the circuit rider and the state are recommending to do it, and it backs us up when we need it, which is going to be rare, then I think it's a good idea to have it. Because I've had a wetlands class and been out there with the augers and with the soil charts and done all that. And that's right, it's not easy.
Right.
I have to work these folks do, the ones that are good at it. But I also know that, you know, it's tempting to just do what you have to do and say close enough. To borrow a phrase my grandfather used to use, good enough for government work.
I'm just saying it takes one to know one. Like, I can point out a shitty excuse my language, a terrible welder. You know what I mean? Because I'm a welder. But I can't tell a wetland delineator that they're terrible unless I'm. So if you guys want to certify me in it and Bob, and then you know what I mean. That's all I'm asking is like.
Well, in the case of Wing Lane, had Wing Lane been able to produce their field notes to Beals and Thomas, they wouldn't be spending $8,000 for Beals and Thomas to go out there and basically recreate the wheel. And we have a theme in town. We have a theme of engineers that it's the same engineers and the same wetlands people for all of these big wetlands projects that have a lot of wetlands on them and weren't buildable 20 years ago, but are suddenly buildable now. And that's what we're seeing. And if we're not going to make them do the heavy lift and actually do what's required to delineate a wetland, you might as well not care. We might as well just skip that part. But by having a policy to require it, they're on notice that we're checking.
That makes sense.
If there is extra expense, who does that fall on? The applicant?
Well, if they're delineating a wetland, they're paying to have it done. And they should be paying, and they should be getting all of the information for what they're paying for. I don't know of any abbreviated wetland delineations, but that's what I'm seeing out there. It's you know, on the commission, and Uxbridge was on the commission. We had an engineer of you know, choice in town that represented, you know, just about everybody. And we knew most of the time that we needed to go out and look, that he was an aggressive advocate for their clients. I'm not saying they're liars. I'm just saying they advocate strongly for their clients, and that's why they get the work. But I know as a,
Yeah, I know.
I know that you need to trust, but you need to verify. Yeah. So I'll get that document out and we'll get it on the agenda, and we can vote on it at the next meeting, and it'll go on the website and go out to the engineers if you approve it. And then box 3 will be checked on the notice of intent.
Thank you, Ben. So yeah, so
All right.
so yeah, we'll have a look at that. Yeah, so we'll take a pause. Yeah, I like.
Yeah. I apologize. I had all this stuff all queued up. I actually spent the afternoon doing a great job. So.
So actually, this one, we're not going to continue to the next meeting. So I'm going to ask for a vote that we follow the circuit writer's recommendation that the wetland delineation notes be provided to the commission or to the agent, you know, when projects are filed with us.
When they file the NOI, that they check that box and they send the equipment that's required, the information required.
And you said that was what, question number 3, no, right?
Yes, it's on page 8.
Question 3.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's as of today. We're not talking about Mr. DeBarros's project, or we're talking about going forward.
Anything from January 13th, 2022 forward.
Okay.
There's a motion that projects, the NOIs that are filed with us in compliance with page 8, question number 3, that the wetland delineation notes are presented with that filing. So somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, going over there, Ryan, how do you vote?
Yes.
With reservation. Rick?
Yes.
Everett?
With a record player.
Evelyn?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. The last item under discussion
Translates here.
is 2022 filing deadline, review of matters presented.
Terry Coughlin, that's the Terry with a Y, says he used to commute to work by train 3 hours. Right? Now he walks down the
What?
I think your news is on too loud. So I'm looking at the filing deadlines here. I don't know if we need to, so they were provided to us, filing deadlines. It all seems reasonable. The only one that will be slightly changed will be the Tuesday. Or for, oh no, the only thing will be a hearing date, Thanksgiving week. Instead of meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd, we would meet Tuesday, the 22nd. Otherwise, the filing deadlines are also just going to continue as Wednesdays. So that's what we have in front of us for our, sorry, I'm changing pages here, filing deadlines. So thank you, Joanne, for providing that, and I think we'll accept that as presented. Okay. Next item, we may need Pat to come back for this. I'm getting messaged by someone else over here. But this is going to be a heck of a meeting here to follow up on. So the first item, stormwater, 88 Wing Lane, CVE North America review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Good, Pat's back. I know that what we've seen from the paperwork from the folks that are proposing or that have actually started that solar field on Wing Lane, and the drainage that they proposed is not nearly what it should be and has been misrepresented, and that's certainly been shown in the peer review that's been done. And I'm going to let Pat take it from there, because there was a flurry of emails earlier today on this topic.
Yes, so I wasn't the agent when this permit was issued. This project was done as an IDA in priority habitat. And I was kind of following the project because I drove by it every day going out to look at the backside of Keating's Quarry off of Wing Lane. And the project was presented that there'd be no earth disturbance and all the solar panels were going on pedestals. But my observation was that they cleared and grubbed the entire site. And while that was going on, I was getting contact from the building inspector, Jim Merritt, that he felt that there were stormwater issues out there and other things going on, and he wanted me to look into it. But I wasn't the agent. So when I became the agent, I did go out there with Jim Merritt and Doug Pimentel, the new planner, because planning has issues at the project as well. And it wasn't constructed in accordance with the plans. They had a problem with their drainage basin, so they elected to dig a trench from the basin right into the wetland. They had a lot of boulders that were on the site. They dumped them over the fence into the wetland. I went back for another inspection after a storm and there was no water in the basin. And I asked them what happened to the basin and they said it was dry. So I asked them where the bulldozer track marks came from in the basin. And they had to admit that they had pushed all the water out of the basin and cleaned the silt out. So that started looking into what approvals they had and what they didn't have. And Jim Merritt was right. They didn't have a stormwater permit. They hadn't applied for one. So we had them apply for a stormwater permit. They sent over all of their data. They sent a fraction of what was required under the regulations and had been very reluctant to send the rest. And basically the peer review is showing us that this entire project may have been constructed in a wetland. And the reason for going back out and having Beals and Thomas witness the work and do some of the work is to find out. I'm of the impression that groundwater is anywhere from 6 to 18 inches. And if it is, that's a wetland. So they're gonna do that. The town has put a stop work order in with Eversource to not let them energize the system, so that they stay on track and try and get this stuff completed. They say they're going to do whatever it takes to fix it. We can only wait and see if they do it. But until the next phase of the review is done, and that may be 1 or 2 months, this won't pop back onto our agenda.
Well, thanks for having Beals and Thomas do that review and really give us an honest assessment of what's happening there. And we're going to learn more soon. I don't know if anybody in the commission has questions or if there are any neighbors to this that were on to ask questions. I don't see any, so I will go on to the next item. Next item on this.
How do you
Oh, this is Eric. Good.
Hey, what's going on? I'm sorry. This is another thing I didn't want to get in with Dave or whatever, but this is another problem that's going on with my land, is the same like with this project. And the water's not going the right way down the stream. The same thing when Eversource came in and they filled in that whole back. Let me mention, I've lived in the town for 30 years. I grew up on 21 Elaine Way. I grew up right where I bought my property. All that water is not drained properly. It's not just that site, but Eversource went in and they destroyed a lot of that. So I don't know how all that came about, but that might be something that everybody wants to think about. That's all I really got to say about that
Okay.
as a neighbor.
Yeah, you're not that far away from Wing Lane, are you?
No, so
He's right behind it.
Wing Lane, Elaine Way comes in. And so now you got those power lines, you got the, I actually, Terror and Son, we put in the front side before they sold out and the owner switched over and in the back section and whatever, but that section, but on like Stanley's side where mine was, that all that is coming down and it's running right in. My land that I purchased, like the other person said, I do my diligence. I did. I've lived there all my life, but I didn't have the knowledge of what was going on with the stream and how badly that all that water in that back was distributed. So there's a stream that goes all the way down. There's a pond right next to the, Pat, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you go all the way to the back of that prop and you go to the north, there was a pond there. And that used to stream all the way down and it would connect into the stream that connects into my property, which I own, half the stream, and it would go all the way down. Now it's overflowing so bad and it's backing up into my property. Half my property went before that I knew it wasn't even wetland. It was just all overgrow and all overflow now from all that backup water from that stormwater. But in the onsense, that's a small problem because Eversource filled all that in. We used to never be able to go in there you couldn't even walk back there. I remember being a kid and having four-wheelers sunk right up to the top of the handlebars because the mud and the water was so bad. Now it's all overflowing all the way down that stream, which is creating problems for me. And I know a couple of other people in my neighborhood that are complaining about that same problem. Their yards are getting straight swamped, including my parents and all the other ones over there. It is a definite, that is, Pat, I'm on your side on that. That is definitely a problem over there. A big problem. All that is so now you're taking a 4-foot wide stream and you're trying to pack down thousands of gallons of water without ditching the stream out. It's just overflowing everywhere. It's actually, it is a problem over there.
Yep.
And no offense to that company, I don't know who they are, but it is a problem. Then it has to be addressed.
Well, see, we found some common ground, Eric.
Hey man, I'm not a mean guy, man. I just I spend all kinds of money doing my project, and I don't want to be just but I'm not one way. I've worked for the town for 15 years. I've plowed snow for the town for 15 years, and I've always been in town, and I'm a townie, and I just wanted to grow my family in town. It's nothing about that, man. I hope you didn't feel no bad way, but yeah, we can definitely agree in that sense that something has to be done over there, because like I said, not only is it now it's creating problems with you and you guys about water and all that, and like half that stuff I wouldn't even have to deal with 10 years ago. When I lived there 10 years ago, we used to play football in that field all the time. It was no problem. Then all of a sudden the NSTAR comes in, they fill all that land, they put that big gravel road. Yeah, we're gonna make all kinds of drains. Go down there. I've already been down there like 5 times with my 4-wheeler. Me personally, just cleaning out the stream, trying to get it to run right without bothering things. The stormwater in that predicament is definitely a problem, because that it's just overflowing. We either got to do something with that stream and that stream runs all the way through, and now you got that other development that they went through in Margaret Street, right? And now they're blocking the stream down there. So now it's all puddling right there in the middle. We gotta do it. The natural stream should be able to be a natural stream.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. And I'm curious to see what we learned from the Beals and Thomas work on 88 Wing Lane. So thank you.
Yep.
Pat, the next thing is Rep Weld Corp. Status of stormwater application and engineering report status.
Yes, so Rep Weld was issued a Class 3 junk license back when licenses were renewed, and he had a provision to come into compliance with some stormwater requirements and setbacks and other things. And he hired Dave DeVignan, and Dave has started doing the site work, the topo and things like that. I sent him over the federal regulations for junkyards and scrap dealers and things as far as stormwater and all of that. And I would like to get a schedule from Rep Weld on when this will be complete. The selectmen would like to have this completed as soon as possible. It's a requirement, and we're requiring it from everybody else. And I think they would like to have it in hand by April 1st. And I have sent over all the requirements to Dave DeVignan in the last few days. So I would like him to come in and make that commitment, because if he can't make that commitment, the selectmen may have to take some action and suspend the license.
Okay, that's good. All right, so it's good that there's an engineer happening with that project and that property.
But we want to make sure that it gets done.
Right.
Because we're enforcing stormwater all over town.
Right.
And it needs to be done.
Yep. Being equitable here. I don't know if there's anybody from Rep Weld on the call that has questions or comments. And make sure we try to recognize everybody that wants to be recognized. Okay. Thanks for that update, Pat.
Yep.
Okay. Next stormwater item is PJ Keating, discussion on Conoco engineers and scientists inspection report pertaining to stormwater.
Yep. So I'm going to share my screen again for a second.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Can you see that?
Good, thanks. How you doing?
Can you see that?
Yes, that's
Okay.
visible.
So this is Conoco's report of the inspection. I'll just show you the letterhead. This is from Conoco. So there has been a bit of a back and forth over the last year or so about whether or not PJ Keating needs to apply for a stormwater permit. And Merrily had sent them a letter telling them they needed to apply for a stormwater permit. They replied with a letter saying that they have their own NIPD's permit and they didn't need one. We have a local stormwater bylaw. It does require a stormwater permit. And the observations from Conoco, and Conoco also is our consultant for our MS4 permit. They're doing field work for us on wet testing and discharge testing and all that to be in compliance with
We are
EPA.
showing it as a reflection of the plan from, I'm not sure how far back. And that's the best we could.
Who's this?
Something like that.
Who's this?
No, and when they built it, only part of the house
Dave.
was there. It wasn't built. It was just built in two pieces.
That's
an
Dave.
addition
Sounds
at a
like
later
the
time.
voice and he's
There it is, Dave.
And all we can do, that's the only thing on record. There were no as-built plans
He's in
required at
he's
that
in
time.
another meeting and has
So
pocket
that
dialed
would
us.
be south of what we're showing it, but
Hey,
Can we get the cable guy to mute Dave?
by the Board of Health back in 1980. and that's the best
Oh
we
yeah,
can
he's definitely in another.
He's in another meeting. He pocket dialed. Can we get Acushnet? There he goes. He's muted. Okay. So, it says here that brief discussions were raised about the former location of the asphalt plant and whether the soil remediation performed and the ultimate earth disturbing activities required a stormwater permit in accordance with the town's stormwater bylaw. And the bylaw applies to any land disturbing activity resulting in a land disturbance of 5,000 square feet or more. Now, Kevin McHugh didn't measure this in the field, so he carefully writes that it appears that the disturbance did exceed that threshold. If the work was performed after the effective date of the bylaw, then a stormwater permit should have been obtained. And it was after the bylaw was effective, and they haven't obtained a stormwater permit. And similar to that, questions were raised about the paving. And if you've paved more than 5,000 square feet of area, you need to apply for a stormwater permit. It's in the town's regulation. It does appear that there was a lot more than 5,000 square feet of new asphalt added. So we're going to be, or I'm going to be sending a letter to Keating advising them that they need to apply for a stormwater permit by a date certain. And I wanted to make the commission aware of that. And I'm sure that Mr. Vigneault is going to tell you that he's exempt and doesn't need to do it, and I'm wrong. And if you want, I will also send out the stormwater regulation highlighted so that you don't have to search for this. And when they appeal the notice, you'll be well informed, because they appeal everything we do. And I'm trying to run this all before the commission ahead of time with BJ Keating, so that we can maybe save some time for everybody and you know, cut to the chase and maybe save some appeal time. But if we can't, we can't.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to hear from Mr. Hannon what we've appealed. What has PJ Keating appealed?
You appealed the enforcement orders from the commission.
They weren't ratified. It's all perfectly.
I'm saying you appealed them.
legitimately-
You asked me the question, I answered it. Thank you.
Yeah, incorrectly.
Okay, so Pat, thanks for that, and thank you to Conoco for that report, and for that heads up that you'll be asking them to file. Any other questions or comments on this one?
Do we do site visits for stormwater now that we are the
Sure.
overseeing board of that?
Absolutely, if you want to. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean,
you can do the
why
same
not?
thing while we're there. While we're there for the silk pile, you can take that
Right.
all in.
Right, yeah, I'd like to check out Repwell too. It doesn't say much about it in under Repwell, so I wasn't even aware. I've never even been there. So yeah, I'm for a site visit. We can do that
Yeah.
also.
Part of the situation at Repwell is you have residences all around it on wells. And we have a junkyard there. So it needs to meet all of the requirements, and it needs to be tight.
Yeah, I mean, we get a, whatever,
We'll set it
the
up.
wheel with the, let's get some tape measures and go out there and check it out. Why not?
We have a wheel.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, so we'll add.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, may I request a copy of the inspection report? We haven't seen that.
I'll send that out tomorrow. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else questions or comments on this topic?
Is Repwell got a permit for a junkyard, or does he just have a permit for an automotive business? That's two different things, ain't it?
Class 3 junk. Thank you.
So that's it for stormwater. Next, agent updates, budget and revolving accounts, review of matters presented. vote may be taken.
Yes. So today was budget day for fiscal year 2023. And I did copy you on it, Bob. So we have two revolving accounts. We have a revolving account that holds our funds from payments from notice of intent. That account has about $32,000 in it. The commission has not expended any money out of that in quite some time. And then we have another account that collects the wetland fees for RDAs and other things that the town collects. And that has around $25,000 in it. And that account has a spending limit of $2,500 a year to be used by the commission for the pollinator garden and other small items. We need to be able to buy some materials for the commission. You see below this, I want to buy an auger and we want to buy a Munsell chart. I'm told the Munsell chart's a little pricey. And then as the town tries to reduce the budget and cut people back, we have the ability to use our Wetlands Protection Act money for salaries. And as you know, the commission voted to do something for the clerk to get her to the status of an administrative assistant. And the selectmen were resisting that. Now that we've taken on stormwater and Joanne has taken on the work of the stormwater clerk, we could use Wetlands Protection Act money to give her a stipend. And you folks as the commission have the right to vote to use NOI money to give Joanne a stipend. The person who is videotaping these meetings gets paid $75 per meeting, whether it's a 5-minute meeting, a 1-hour meeting, or whatever. I would recommend that we give Joanne a stipend for doing the meetings rather than just getting her, 1 hour's pay. The guy doing the videotape's getting $75 and Joanne's getting a fraction of that. And we're actually fighting with the budget people about 50 cents, guys. They don't want to give somebody else 62 cents and they don't want to give another person 50 cents an hour. So that's my idea. Nor in Uxbridge, our conservation agent, half of her salary is paid from Wetlands Protection Act money and the town pays the rest. If there was enough money coming in, the Wetlands Protection Act money would pay the whole salary. That's really what it's for. But there's not enough filings going on to support a salary. But if we, judiciously take a small amount out of that every year, we'll never run out of money. And we do take in at least $3,000 a year. So if we gave her a stipend for the meetings and gave her a stipend for being the stormwater clerk, she's good. And it's certainly sustainable. Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the most wonderful things I've heard in a while. This is Evelyn, by the way. There's 26 meetings a year and you're looking at what, 2,500?
Yeah, it was like $2,700 we figured out.
Well, even if we did $100 a meeting, those 26 meetings, there's 2,600 and you'd still have 100 left.
No, we have 32,000, not 3,200.
Oh, that's so much better.
Yes, it's never been spent, but you don't want to wipe it out. Things do happen and the commission may want to hire a consultant that they have to pay for. We may not be able to get a peer review on a violation and we may want to invest the money in having an engineer come out. On the stormwater side, there are some engineers and consultants being engaged. And some of that money could go towards the engineers and consultants rather than coming out of your tax dollars.
Okay, I
This-
know, I know for years and years, we've all volunteered too. Would there be anything in here for the commission? Let's say someone who's done over 3 years or 5 years or what have you? Has that ever been done with any commission in the state of Mass?
That's never been done. Nope. It's
Why
a
is that?
it's a volunteer situation.
Okay, well, that we know.
Yep.
Because I can't even think of how many years I've been on this, and including all of us. Everyone who's on here has probably been on even longer than I have. I just wanted to ask.
The only people
Throw it out
getting
there.
something are people that were elected. I know the planning board members get, I think, $250 a month for, approving septic plans and attending their meetings.
And that's well deserved.
Yep, but that's in the budget. That's coming out of the budget. We wanted to use it.
For as much as we can give. Joanne, please, can we do that? At least I don't know how everyone else feels, but I know she's been very instrumental for all of us.
Well, she does a great job. She's easy to work with.
Yeah, she does a great job. Yep.
Yep. And she's been working for the town for 33 years.
God bless her.
And I think that just that is worth something.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
So I vote yes, as high as we can go.
So I think I should circulate something, Bob. We should have a piece of paper with a proposal on it that the commission can vote on and approve. And then we would do a PAF, a personnel action form. That's how I got my stipend for being the special projects manager. That's how I got my stipend for being the interim town planner. And Joanne was told by the previous town administrator that if she started doing stormwater work, they would give her a raise. But when I just negotiated our budget, there was no room for anything other than a stipend that won't affect pension. And I can understand that the town doesn't want to blow pensions up because that's a big burden later on down the road. But there's no objection to giving her a reasonable stipend that doesn't become pensionable. So let's do it.
I'm curious, this being a salary discussion or a compensation discussion, if this is something that has to be done in executive session or not.
It's not a contract negotiation because it's a stipend. It's outside of, this is a non-union issue.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's get the document going around and we'll take a look at it.
All right. So I'll put something together in the next couple of days because I already committed to a lot tomorrow. And
I'll
we'll get it
entertain a
out.
motion that you purchase an Auguran a monthly chart for the conservation office. We can do that right away. Somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Rick. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Evelyn. Do we have any further discussion?
No.
All right. And there I see you, Evelyn. How do you vote?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you all. That's the only item on agent updates. On to future business. Our next business meeting is scheduled for the 26th of this month. Actually, Pat, I should have asked you, were there any other agent updates you wanted to give before we went on to future business?
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, this would be future business. Again, discussions with DEP and discussions with town council. I don't know if you folks remember that I made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen and others about wetlands loss at PJ Keating. And I don't know if you're familiar with the wetlands loss maps that DEP puts out. Are you folks familiar with those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So on the DEP wetlands loss maps, there are a few areas of significant what they call human altered wetlands. So wetlands that were taken out without permission. And I've been talking to town council about this for 6 months. And they advised me yesterday that there was a recent Massachusetts Supreme Court decision that these are all actionable, there's no statute of limitations, and that they should be enforced. There have been on the other side of the coin with PJ Keating, where the asphalt plant has been located, that there was a human altered pond there. There was a pond filled in, and portions of the asphalt plant have been built on top of it. There are allegations going around town hall that there is a engineering report from a geotechnical engineer that the ground is unstable under the asphalt plant. So myself and Selectman Gaspar have started looking into it. Because we have no town administrator, the selectmen split all of the departments up, and departments have liaisons as selectmen. So Kevin Gaspar is the liaison to Conservation, DPW, and Finance Department. And Selectman Wonar is handling the police department, the fire department, and planning. The building department. Departments that are elected don't have a liaison because they're autonomous and don't have to report to anybody. That would be the Board of Health and the town planner. So I was told today that Selectman Gaspar filed a request with the building inspector for the geotechnical report, if it exists. But according to the Construction Control Act, there needed to be a geotechnical report before they built anything there to show that the ground could support the structures. So it's going to be coming out that I want to, in conjunction with town council, issue a violation for filling in the wetlands on that property. And Keating has known about this for quite some time. I think I brought it up when I first got hired. I made a PowerPoint presentation that had the wetlands loss in it. And Mr. Robinson said that they would just replicate that somewhere else on the site. Well, the pond is bigger than 5,000 square feet. It can't be replicated somewhere else on site. It's illegal to fill it in, and it would have to be put back in place. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And there's a larger area down where the asphalt plant used to be, that's 5 or 6 acres of a wooded swamp that was eliminated by Keating and filled in to make a laydown area for materials. So there will be a violation notice going out about that. And that's something that's way over our head as far as enforcing, and we're going to need town council to help us, and they're going to get DEP involved in that. And DEP has expressed an interest in being involved in that. So that's going to be on the agenda next. I just wanted to get that out to you. So the heads up. I don't think we're going to have a really big meeting. A lot of this is just paperwork and saying it's all set. The stormwater is all set for Middle Road, those sorts of things. Or if it's really a heavy lift for the wetlands loss, we could make it a separate meeting, or we could actually post a meeting and have a workshop and get information from town councils and not take any votes and not have to take any comment from the public, but just have a workshop where the commission gets to really vet this and decide what to do.
Yeah.
Going on there.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes. But if we've got an asphalt plant that's been built on top of unstable ground, that's a serious issue.
Yeah, how did that go unnoticed anyways? I mean, how does that happen?
If I can't say anything good, I don't want to say anything.
No, I mean, I'm asking because I don't know. I mean, honestly, how does that go unnoticed? So.
There's just been a lack of attention. And when one department passes a regulation or a bylaw, all the other departments don't necessarily become aware of it. And you know, the planning board, I don't think knew that they were the enforcement authority for stormwater. And that's why stormwater permits got missed in the beginning of the regulation. And that's all I can think of.
Yeah.
But you know, Keating was asked to apply for stormwater permits by Merrill Lee, and they sent, you know, their usual, you know, we're exempt, we're grandfathered, all our water goes into the quarry. You know, we're not doing it, and I stick to it. But other people may not, you know, just stick to it, and after you get told no 10 times, you move on to the next thing. So that's where we're at. But DEP doesn't make those maps and ask us to look at them for no reason. And our selectman Gaspar is very concerned that, you know, you got millions of pounds of stuff sitting on, you know, potentially unstable ground. It's not confirmed. This is a, you know, until it's all confirmed, it's possible.
This is right up my alley. Deep foundations.
Well, you think about it, you know, we have a regulation that you can't excavate right next to someone's property line because there may be a cave in. They've blasted out 150 feet deep, and they've put an asphalt plant right on the rim of the quarry. So how competent is the rock from 100 years of blasting? And how competent is the area where the pond was? And then again, if there was a seismic event, and we had one not too long ago, because Deb Popacek called me at 4 a.m. To tell me that something horrible happened at the quarry. And I said, no, I felt it in Uxbridge. It was an earthquake. But things happen. And if the Construction Control Act requires a geotechnical report, then the town certainly wants to see it.
Anybody else on the commission with business for the commission?
I did have a picture all queued up of that pond to show you, but again, I lost it, and we'll get that out as well.
So
Yeah, just one quick question before we go. The auger and Munsell chart, do we need to be certified to use that, or?
Nope.
No.
And we could actually have Andrew Poyant come out and do a training if we wanted to. But I do know that our engineer from Conoco will be more than glad to come out and give us an hour of this is how you do it.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Because I'm serious. People are out just hanging flags in town.
Peter, you said you lost all your documents, but you had that one document that you had. How did you lose everything but that one thing?
I had 13 minutes to put some documents and queue them up.
I didn't see you leave the screen.
I have 2 screens.
All right, thank you all for your participation. Our next meeting will be.
You didn't move to another computer, sir.
Who's this? Who is this?
My name's Stephen Ryan, and I live in the town.
Yeah, so I have 2 screens and I'm not a liar, so.
I just said you sat there like that the whole time.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here right now, and I'm gonna share my screen right now. I didn't move. I didn't leave my computer.
Right. Where's the document that you had?
It's on my computer.
But all the other ones were lost.
There you go. I told you I had 13 minutes to put certain documents back on my computer, and then the meeting started.
Hey, I'm not a fan of Pat Hannon, but if you look into his glasses, you can see 2 screens.
I'm not doubting there's 2 screens. I'm just wondering why he lost every document except for that one.
Now, that's, you know, I'm going to stop this discussion.
That's semantics. Yeah.
You can stop sharing screen.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor on the commission?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you all. Have a nice evening.